nothing longer than a year before we have to make a permanent decision.
I think the Park District, I think is very comfortable with the one-year contract. So I think the consensus of the board is option 2. Robbie?
Yes,
Okay.
but does the Park District not care? They're just like, whichever one you want?
No, they're discussing it tonight, too.
Yeah, they're
Oh.
talking about it.
So, I mean, we could say 2, and they could be like, no dice, we want
No, I mean,
5.
as
right?
Katie said, that it makes absolutely no difference in terms of the language of the contract. It's written in such a way that they could offer any one of these options without having to change the verbiage in the contract. But when they actually go to do the planning and print their booklets and all that stuff, this is feedback they'll take. All right, thank you, everybody. Our next item is our sub-district boundary discussion.
Okay, so Mr. Gutzmer is leading this one all on his own.
Yep,
Yay.
and you may not remember everything we talked about from back on November 2nd. So I was going to give you guys a short last time on school board district redistricting. If you recall, we went over the criteria for the board districts. We discussed the substantially equal in proportion, how in the last census, primarily because of undercounting of college students, the numbers for all of the board districts are kind of out of whack, and that we need to rebalance the districts to bring them more into alignment and make the numbers more equal. We talked about some of the rules with the contiguous territory, some of the various measures of compactness, and then we talked about maintaining the minority balance. We went over the current minority balance of the district, how things had been redistricted in the past, and how at this point we only have one minority district, one minority sub-district in the district. And that was something that in the discussion everybody agreed was something that we were really interested in rectifying. We talked about the minimal disruption to the current board districts and how the board was willing to forego that in an effort to make things more equitable in the district and to kind of achieve these other goals. And then we talked about the equitable distribution of university students and the special university area, and then also about balancing the school districts with the school attendance boundaries. So keeping that in mind, I will start into going over the district plans. And so I think I had the current district boundaries up here. I think it's gone now. So there were 7 submissions from 7 map submissions from outside. We had 2 info sessions over the past few months, hoping to get some community involvement. The outpouring of community interest was less than we would have hoped, but we did get some submissions from board members, and I have put those into a summary document that I sent you earlier, which I'll also pull up. And I apologize with some of the things that were happening with the online streaming. All of my tabs got out of order, but so there were 7 maps or 5 maps submitted by board members, and then 2 maps that were developed, as I mentioned, algorithmically through the data that we got from GIS internally. So this is a summary of all of those. The range indicates the difference between the largest subdistrict and the smallest subdistrict. The existing map, the range was 1,226, and on average, each district should be around 6,750. So 1,226 is almost 30%, a little less than 30% of that. The standard deviations listed there, just for your knowledge. And then the number of majority minority districts was the easy measure that they used in the redistricting tool to be able to tell and make sure that you weren't diluting minority voting power in the final map submission. So if there's more majority minority districts, then that if that is representative of your district, which in almost every case it is, as again I outlined at the November 4th meeting, that is going to be better representing your district population, and it's going to not disenfranchise voters in the district as they're going to vote. The compactness scores there are listed. This is the simple compactness from the tool. As I mentioned also at the last meeting, if we do pick 2 or 3 of these that we'd like additional analysis from RPC, GIS, we can submit those to them, and they will get us the full analysis similar to what we went over last time with the existing district map. So with that in mind, I'm going to start through the maps that we
Hey,
have.
John,
Yeah.
for the compactness, what is it? You know, you kind of said what that means, I guess, a little bit, but what does that mean? Do
Oh,
want,
if
like
you
a
wanna
lower
go-
compactness or a higher compactness? Do you even want compactness? What?
The higher
know?
number, the higher number is better for compactness. This is just a score. This is kind of a generic score in the tool between 0 and 100. So higher is better for the compactness.
Wow.
It is not. Do you want me to go back through all the measures of compactness with the math that I had from
No,
before?
I just wonder.
Okay.
Like, I mean, we have these numbers for each one, so it's like, well, is 45 good or is 72
So
good? Or is the
100
middle number good? You know?
100 is good. 0 is bad. But this is not using all of the things that we would get the additional analysis that from the outside group. But we
Alright.
can't also, they said very kindly, I think, that they would help us with 2 to 3 for some like additional fee from our commitment with them. But I don't think they wanted to do 6 or 7, and I don't think it probably makes sense for the board to do a further analysis of 7 different maps. So my hope is by the end of tonight that there'll be 2 or 3 that are standout maps that you guys are wanting to proceed with. So the statistics for each of the map I will have for you guys in addition to going over what the map looks like. And since all of the maps were submitted by people within 20 feet of me, I'm going to give you guys a chance to just kind of give a little bit of the rationale of the map and the methodology. If you guys are prepared to do that. If not, we can kind of just look at it as it stands. So this is the existing map, had 1 majority minority district. And as I mentioned, the total numbers were a little out of whack on that one. The first map, this was the one submitted by you, Member Hasanadka. So this one had, the range was still high, but it somehow managed to get 4 majority minority districts, which is great. And I will pull that up here. And if you have something you want to say about it, or if you want me to zoom in or highlight anything,
I'll
please
speak the
let me know.
highlights of my map.
Sure.
So the reason it somehow has 4 majority minority districts is because that's what I was going for. I was trying to get as many as I could. You can't get 7, unfortunately. So the 3 things that this map brings is, 1 is the majority minority district number. Number 2 is it disenfranchises the WUNA, so the West Urbana Neighborhood Association currently could have 3 board members if they so chose. And historically they've had, I think, more than that if you go back 20 years. But now there's only 1. And then number 3 is there is a district centered around Wiley, which is that green district. So Wiley will get a person from their own district in this map. So then the other districts, I just kind of maneuvered a little bit to bring in more of the city population to get the majority-minority districts up. And in doing so, I made that red district real huge, and that in order to suck up the non-minority district portion. And then that yellow district is actually majority-minority district, believe it or not, because of that little corner in the upper left.
Yeah.
John, for board members that are manipulating the map on the computers, how do you get the street names? Which box is it again? I can't see.
If it is not checked on there, if you go to this lower corner here where it says background map, it will bring up the street names. You might have to zoom in a little bit closer to be able to see them a little bit more clearly. They're kind of grayed out behind the bulk of the information, which is the colored information. Okay, did you find it? If you can, I can come over and help you if it's not. It's this one. It's this one right here. And you might have to click the arrow to bring up the overlays.
Yeah, one of the downsides of this Dave's redistricting thing is the numbers don't actually match our actual subject district numbers.
Yes.
So that was real hard to
Yeah.
follow, but
Probably, yeah. I'm looking not to look at my district though.
So, and then each district also has kind of the summary of the proportionality, compactness, minority distribution, and the splitting, which should, the splitting should be 0 for all of them. And I think I mentioned in the email I sent earlier, a few of your districts had some very small 0 population census blocks that were in the wrong thing and were causing them to come up as split districts. And I took the liberty of fixing those for you. I hope that's okay. So the one downside of this one, I will point out before we move on, is the split between sub-districts is still relatively high, and there might be some issue from when we go to submit this to the county for our voter rolls. So I'll move on to map number 2. And this was from Member Oglowski. This one, the range 83, it was one majority-minority district. And I will switch over to this map. And if you have anything that you'd like to highlight or say about how you came
Yeah,
up with
because
that.
I think I tinkered at the end. So I had 3. So if you go back to the majority-minority districts, I think I must sit right at 50-50 on 2 of them, because that was one of the criteria, but I don't remember numbers. Okay, so I wasn't quite as successful, but we're blocks away if this is something that's, if this map makes it. So the criteria I used, I tried to get the districts as equal as possible in size, while also getting 2 more majority-minority districts, which I slightly failed on, and also minimally manipulating the old districts, so they still somewhat look similar, which was a criteria we said we don't care a whole lot about, but that was just my, it became difficult to continue to manipulate the map at some point, so I focused on equality of the population sizes.
Okay, and the next one is from President Plowski, and he had a couple different with, I think,
I
different.
was having too much fun with the tool, I'm sorry.
It is easy to get sucked in and spend 4 or
Yeah,
5 hours.
I'll try to make this to speed this up. So the first map is basically my attempt to change as little as possible and get within some level of tolerance for population balance. So this map should look, fairly similar to the existing map while also retaining a better balance. That's all this map was.
And this is the attendance area based.
And this is the second map?
Yeah, this is the attendance area based, I think,
Yeah,
was the
so,
subtitle.
so the biggest complaint I've ever gotten, the only complaint I've really ever gotten really with regards to how we draw our boundaries was from the Wiley neighborhood, saying that they felt like they were divvied up and they didn't really have anybody who was part of their school. So I just made sure that, that area, was in one sub-district, and then kind of went from there, trying to retain balance. And again, this isn't terribly changed from the existing map. And this last one was my attempt to do something that wasn't gerrymandered, but looking at the compactness and the actual algorithmic numbers that you show at the beginning, it failed. So it looks fairly square, but I think the green and the purple ones aren't quite as compact as I thought they were.
Yeah, and if this was, and I believe it is using the measure that's the smallest circle that's inscribed, the area of the district divided by the smallest circle that would inscribe the entire district, which I think, as we discussed last time, really penalizes districts that have, that are longer and narrower, even though our entire district is kind of long and narrow. So even though it's possible you can fit 7 hexagons or circles inside a circle, but our district isn't a circle to start with, so at some point we're going to have some longer districts. So yes, it's very difficult to get everything perfectly compact.
I appreciate that the administration went and did some algorithmically drawn ones. So
Yeah. So I'll move on to the next two are ones we did within the district. So the first one, and these both used a similar methodology, which was starting from a starting point and then kind of perturbating around the boundaries of all the districts and finding all of the districts that had the biggest difference of swapping individual blocks at the district boundaries to more proportionalize the minority distribution within the sub-districts. So the first one started with the existing map. And so, and it perturbated kind of around everything until everything was contiguous, and then it was also within the 100, I think was what we said for the total range of high and low districts. So the first one, which I'll have to scroll over a little bit for, started from the existing district map and ended up with 2 minority districts. Again, as Brian pointed out, it's really easy to get things close, but getting them kind of over that last hurdle is hard. And then if something changes anywhere else, it kind of upsets the apple cart everywhere. So this district should look somewhat similar to the existing district model. It ends up with 1 more majority-minority district, and then the numbers are relatively balanced out. It does try to incorporate as many districts as possible in the university zone, and the compactness is still at the normal number. The second one, instead of that, used a little bit more complicated system where we pulled the entire block data for all of the blocks, the census data, and did a optimization of what would make each district, each sub-district have the best possible distribution of races to most accurately represent the population district in the district as a whole. So to give each race in the district as perfect as possible representation in the board districting process. And when you do that, you get a map that looks something like this, which is great. It is really balanced and really reflects our minority population, but it does not meet the goals for compactness or continuity. So for this one, we started you find some clusters where you can kind of build the start of a few sub-districts. So there's a lot of purple here and a lot of yellow there. And once you have your 7 clusters, then you start that same process where you iterate around the edges of each district and swapping them. This time, not just looking at the proportion of the districts that you're going around the edges, but also looking at trying to get some sort of continuity to kind of line up. So balancing those 2 factors. Doing that, you end up with this map that looks much less like the current districts, but is based on that racial distribution. And I will pull up the information for that. Is very close because it started very close. It ended up very close on the distribution of districts. Still had 3 majority-minority districts. The compactness was a little bit less because there were a few longer districts. We still had those kind of long horizontal districts going across, but now there's also a couple longer vertical districts going up and down. So this is kind of sacrificing compactness for the keeping a better minority balance in the district. It does still balance the university zone across 4 districts, which is about the most you can do while still having any sort of continuity that's not just districts running in large horizontal lines across the district. So that said, I would like to, if you'd like to take over for board discussion, I think this would be the time where that would make sense, and I'll continue to drive if you guys will allow me.
This is great work, John. Thank you so much for this thorough analysis of the submitted maps and the algorithmic presentation as well. It was really useful. Board members, now's our time to discuss.
That last one you had up, that was number 7, right?
Yes.
So I think our task tonight is to winnow this down to, I think, at most 3 to let the public have an opportunity to give us feedback on, and potentially take them back to RPC. Thank you. I'm a fan of number 7 myself, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can actually scratch mine, because 7 does a better job of what I was trying to do, and I would throw mine out personally. And 7 is my favorite as well, in terms of it uses the same criteria I was trying to do, just way better.
Can you show 7 again, John?
Yeah, absolutely. The one other thing, and as I was talking about this in our administrative team meeting earlier, I think I want to warn you guys, I did not have a lot of, or really any information about current board districts or member addresses, so it was very hands-off on the kind of the Urbana political side. So if there are things that are probably going to be affecting how the board districts are laid out moving forward. I think you had said explicitly in the past that that wasn't a consideration we needed to consider, but there may be some things in there, and again, I don't know what they are, but there may be some things where it affects things moving forward.
I would think what would be good to see for between now and when we decide is the overlay of the school districts for elementary on top of whatever these top 3 maps are. Because like the only thing I know looking at this map zoomed out is where Philo Road is. because it's at that angled road.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can zoom in a little, and
Yeah.
I thought, did we have, was
Yeah,
it this? No, that's county.
I really like the first map, Robbie. I think the goals you had in mind were great, you know, and you achieved a lot of them. I do worry though that they're too disparate. But I don't know. That's a big part of why I like this is that it meets a lot of our goals, and it's also says it was designed by a computer, which kind of takes any concerns the public might have about personal bias of people drawing it out of the equation as well.
I mean, I think it would still be worth including if we're allowed to potentially have more than one. I
Sure.
think both the last one and the first one had the most majority minority districts, so those would be the two that I would consider. I don't have a third yet, because I'm also interested. I feel like, John, you had mentioned like when there's another layer of it when they go to RPC, like kind of how they're created.
Yeah, and
Just because there is that really giant section in number 7, and so I'm just kind of curious, like population density and some of those other things that come after we get it evaluated by RPC.
the giant section is the red section.
Yeah.
That is the lower population density. So similar, I think, to Member Hasanadka's. That is where it kind of makes it possible to have multiple majority minority districts.
Also, I think it includes the county. That's why I said district, so.
With Robbie's map, and maybe you remember, you submitted a long time ago, I know, are we able, do you think it's possible to retain and swap enough population that we could also sort of get that within tolerance? Because it is very clearly a different idea on the same theme. And if that's our most important criteria, which several people seem to be advocating for, it is for me, I would love to have options that achieve that while also trying to achieve the goals. And if there's a way to do that, I can't see where the pockets are of dense population that you could move around. Nor can we see the street level data from this far away. I can barely see it at all, but.
And as you look at those later, you can zoom in, and once you get in there a little further, I'll also find, I thought there was a way to overlay the school districts on top of that, but I'm not seeing it in the layers right now. I think it's another layer I have to import, but I can do that after the meeting and update with that on our districting website and send that to you as well.
I hate to add another map to the equation, but I mean, could we take map 1 as input to the algorithm process that swaps blocks to get it within tolerance?
We can look at that. So what I found, and that's why I pulled up this chart here, which is a little small. Let me see if I can zoom in a little, is that when the districts are really close, so this one with the 4 districts is 51-49, 51-48, 51-48, and then it has 1-65-35. So unless the districts are, unless that District 6 is directly adjacent to District 7, 1, and 5, which we can go look at, then it's not really possible to do enough swapping. And the more swapping you do, you usually have to go through some area to get to the area where you need to be pulling from. And going through the area takes you kind of the opposite of the way you want to go before you're able to come back out of it. And then by the time you're coming back out of it, it gets further disparate the other way. But that is something that we can do, and I can share. If we want to have a couple that we want to send to RPC now and reserve judgment on another one.
Well, can you just say what you said a moment ago? If District 6 is next to 5,
yeah,
4,
let
1,
me-
what was it?
Let's see. So if District 6 is adjacent to Districts 7, 5, and 1, so let's go look real quick.
Yes.
It is close to 7.
6, 7, and then 5's over here, and then 1 is here. So it's possible that with some moving between those, but the one that we would actually have to change is District 1 would have to lose a lot, it looks like. And District 7 would also have to lose a lot. So it's possible. I can take a look at it with your permission, Ravi, and get back to you guys. I don't mess with people's stuff unless they let me know it's okay. I will add one more thing on the map number 7. So that was based on racial distribution in the districts. So if you look at that one, it not only has 3 majority-minority districts, but it also has districts that we're kind of looking at trying to get as close to a plurality of certain represented minorities in the district. Again, as we discussed last time, I think I said we should have 2.4 African-American members and 1.3 Hispanic members. So that one did end up with a lot greater proportion of voting power in certain districts for those specific races. So Asian, Black, and then the Hispanic one was a little bit harder because the locations where those larger blocks were kind of spread more around the district, and it was they didn't end up kind of congealing on the map as much as the other ones. I did run one other map through the same algorithmic process that was, instead of basing it on race to start, was basing it just on general minority to start. And that one, as it went through the process, ended up being, I think it was counter to what the board's desire were for the end result of this, where it had several very predominantly minority districts, and then like a lot of the middle ones, and then several very predominantly white ones, and it seemed to be more segregating the voting power of our constituents instead of empowering them.
Ann, Tori, Brenda, do you guys have any comments on this? So, okay. I'm willing to pull mine as well. I think that the computer did a better job than I did, by and large. I don't think the board's interested in a minimal amount of change, so that's kind of is just there for curiosity's sake more than anything else. The only reason I'm holding on to that map number 4 is because of that Wiley area, but Robbie did that in his as well. I think if we can get his with better balance to compete with 7, I think that those are the 2 best maps we have. That's my personal opinion. I'd like to hear from everybody else.
I agree. I actually have students in my district that attend Wiley. I have students in sub-district 1 that attend all of Urbana elementary schools, all of them. Some of them live right across the street from each other, and they attend 2 different schools. So it's kind of different how that was laid out, but.
Okay. So we need to come with a consensus in terms of like maps to go on for further analysis. So 7
Maybe-
and amended 1.
So we could take 3 though, or what's
We can.
the thing?
I threw 3 out there. It's the board's this decision.
Oh, well, I mean, it's what the agreement is with RPC or whatever, too,
I
I guess, but.
I think what they said to us in the meeting was 2 or 3, but I think
Yeah.
we're also incurring some cost
Yeah.
for that additional
Yeah, oh
analysis.
yeah, we can do 3, definitely.
When do those go to, like, how soon do they want them?
At the RPC or at the clerk's office?
RPC.
They're ready whenever we're, yeah.
And how long does their part take?
Her turnaround time is pretty quick. I think she got them to us in about a week or a few days.
And then they to the clerk?
5 months, so we would need to have something, they've already started calling, asking us for them, so they know we're discussing them. So I think our goal was May, because they need at least 5, because they have to post and, yep.
Okay.
And I think in order to expedite the process with your guys' permission, and so we have enough time for public comment and we don't have another board meeting till April, I think as soon as we get those back, if it's okay with you, we could post those kind of fully analyzed maps directly to the same redistricting website. So if there's any public comment, that we could just jump right back into discussing that on the 4th.
Would the board be amenable to, say, Robbie working with John to get that range down on map number 1 and submit that with map number 7 and just have those 2 maps go in?
Would that be something we'd also be looking at before it goes in, or are we just leaving those pieces?
Well,
I mean,
we
that
can
could be done
share.
by email.
Yeah, well, I was
even.
gonna
It
say, we
doesn't
can share
require
whatever
another
we
board
get from
meeting.
RPC via email, for sure.
Sound good?
Yeah, that's fine.
So, timeline-wise, how long are we saying we would like to keep them up? Are we saying, our next meeting is April 5th, but we have spring break in there, so do we wanna go beyond that, or,
When does the county need these?
May?
Okay, so let's say we'll look at what RPC does quickly on the first meeting in April, and we'll be prepared to vote it on the second meeting in April.
Sounds
Yeah.
Great. I think the plan. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to our consent agenda. We have the minutes for the February 15th business meeting, the February 16th Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee meeting, the February 24th District Facilities Property Committee meeting, and the March 1st study session. We have advance approval for the February bills for payment that were in our packet, a list of personnel items, and a list of administrative personnel items as well to be approved. Interfund loans from Urbana Adult Ed to Working Cash Fund for the amount of $240,000. We have the Press Plus that we talked about last meeting, that giant amount of changes to our policies. And payment to Urbana Adult Education. We're requesting a $32,500 payment to Urbana Adult Education for the in June. The school district transferred the parking lot at 301 Northwest Street to the city of Urbana for $65,000, and half of that is due back to Urbana Adult Ed. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion on any of the items in the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Hassanaka?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Ogalski?
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
And President Pulaski?
Yes. 12.1, gifts. The following donated a total of $300 to Urbana Adult Ed in the memory of their longtime volunteer, Bill Curry, Kathy Menetese, John Marilyn Litchfield, John Prince, Patricia Watts, Elizabeth Johnston, and Alice Elder Miller. Jeffrey Unger donated $400 to the Urbana High School Boys Tennis Program. Kent Fulmer donated $300 to Urbana High School Boys Basketball Program. Is there a motion to accept these gifts?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The renewal of the Arbor Food contract for 2022-2023. Carol, any comments?
I had a memo in the packets that basically explained my reasons why I'm recommending we renew. Obviously, we've seen from some of our other contracts that we did bid out during the pandemic how that's gone, and it's a tough time for people to be hiring people. So there is a 6% increase that's allowed for CPI, because CPI is a bit higher this year. So they will be allowed to have a 6% increase, but we're recommending, due to the reasons in the memo, that we give them one more year. And it's a one-year renewal, so it's just something that will come back next year for reconsideration again.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Hassanaka?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Ogalski?
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, I doubt there will be a motion, but is there a motion to approve the equity audit contract? Hearing none, it dies without a motion. 12.4, it's a resolution authorizing the directing of sale or disposal of personal property. Carol, any comments on this? Yeah, normal
normal.
disposal stuff.
Yeah, you can see it's sewing machines and IMAX, just getting rid of some
Okay.
old equipment.
All right, thanks. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, unfortunately, this is the time of year where we have to inform staff member that usually based on waiting for grant approval, we were temporarily putting out reduction of forward notices. We have every intention of hiring those individuals back, but this is required by law. We have to do it in March. So the first one is adoption of resolution authorizing for employment of full-time, non-tenured teacher not in the last year of probationary service. Is there a motion?
So this is not someone that we would be hiring, but.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just clarifying.
Oh,
And,
thank
and
you.
not all RIFs are going to be recalled back. So some of our positions are COVID positions, and we
Oh,
will
okay.
not need
Thank
all
you
of
for
those.
clarifying that.
Hopefully, we will not need all of those positions. They were hired with one-year
Thank you.
contracts. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you,
Thank
but.
you for clarifying that.
Okay.
How many?
Ms. Franklin, how many people does this affect?
One, this is one. The
This
first one
is just one?
person.
Okay.
I'll
No,
move
it's a
for
good
this
question.
person.
Yeah, the first one is non-renewal.
Person not present.
Tori moved.
No. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, adoption or resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of full-time educational support personnel. This affects 2 individuals.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, 12.7, adoption of resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of full-time grant-funded educational support personnel, non-union. This affects 1 person.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, 12.8, adoption of resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of full-time grant-funded educational support personnel union. This affects 12 individuals.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum,
Yes.
President Pulaski.
Yes, 12.9, adoption of resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of part-time grant-funded educational support personnel. This affects 14 people.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Hasanadka,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Ogalski,
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum
Yes.
and President Pulaski.
Yes, there is a call for a future special executive session on Friday, March 11th at 6 p.m. Superintendent's report.
All right. So, as most people here hopefully are aware, our SRO agreement will be ending in June. So I have started engaging conversations with some of our stakeholders, working with our student ambassadors. We have a few activities planned. Our first one is happening tomorrow during parent-teacher conferences. So Mr. Nance and I, a couple of other administrators, we've invited Officer Burnett to join us. So this is primarily for the high school. We'll be in 2199, just collecting feedback, thoughts, questions from the UHS community. So this will be our first engagement opportunity, Q&A. So I'll be doing others. I'm also having some one-on-one meetings with people in the community. Mr. Nance and I are just sharing the success of the program, talking about some of the data pieces that were really important to some of our members of the community. The last time we had the agreement before the board, so we're just having some preliminary early conversations to get some feedback. So this is our first opportunity, our first Q&A. Dual language forum. So this is something that happens every year. Ms. Riccone leads these. This is the time of the year for families that might be listening, people interested in dual language, to come out and learn more about the program. So the Spanish Parent Forum will be March 23rd. The French Parent Forum is March 30th. We've had a lot of success engaging parents via Zoom, so we're going to keep that format going and invite parents to learn more about those programs on both of those nights. Ms. Riccone is going to make sure that parents are aware that there is a committee that's meeting, that there potentially could be some changes in the elementary dual language program, so they are aware of that when they come to the forum. We won't know what those changes will be, but we will make sure that parents are aware of that. And they're not signing up this night. This really is just their info night to get more info and get their questions answered. Free tax help. This was shared with us, and we've been putting this information out because it will positively benefit some of our families. So the township has some great programs, and this is one that they are promoting in the county, and we are sharing this information. We've shared it on social media. We've shared it with families. So check your email, check our Facebook if you need help with your taxes for free. And there may be some money coming back to you for the child tax credit and earned income tax credit. So there's a link here. Catherine will have this in the board update tomorrow, so families can follow that link to get more information from Cunningham Township on how they can get free tax help. Also, a free reduced computer pop-up shop is being shared in the community. Even though this is happening at Champaign Public Library, we don't want Urbana families to feel that they are not welcome at this event. This is for any family that qualifies for free and reduced. You can go, I believe you can get a desktop computer for $0 pricing for free and a laptop for, was it $20? I can't read the form. So there is some pre-registration required, and we have also been promoting this as well with our families. The Leo mural is off and going. A lot of good work here happening with Urbana Public Arts Program and the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies. This is involving a lot of student input there. The theme of the art project, the mural, is enacting hope and togetherness. So these are some early photos. They started in February, and the goal is to be completed at the end of this month. I can't remember the name of the lead artist, but I think he's in the picture there. And they've been having workshops. I know Principal Ochoa has been really excited about this, and she's been kind of keeping us looped in with photos. So we wanted to give a shout out to the students for their hard work, and we'll make sure when the mural is completed that we celebrate it, as it is going to be mounted in the main school hallway just by the office entrance. We have a couple upcoming art shows. Our art team at UHS is phenomenal, and they are going to be exhibiting art in the Central Regional Art Exhibit coming later in March. one of our students Cassandra Ty, she's a former King kid, so yay, Cassandra, was selected to show her work at the Bridgeport Arts Center in Chicago as part of the Senior Scholarship exhibition. So the gallery opens on March 5th. Also, UHS students will represent the district in the annual Eric Show at the Illini Union Gallery. So if you have not gone by and seen some of our artists in residence from UHS, I'd encourage you to stop by. The show is open now through April 2nd, starting tomorrow, actually. Last week, the UHS school held a, I guess it was kind of their Black History Month program slash talent showcase. So there were students who presented poetry, songs, some rhetorical renditions. It was a great opportunity for them to just showcase their authenticity and just be their true selves and share some of their passion around Black History Month. That was live streamed, and so if you are, hopefully everybody here has subscribed to our YouTube channel, and if you haven't, please do that, and you can view the live stream there. And cap and gown. So we are really trying to engage our seniors. So they've been sending out a lot of announcements. So to our public and any parents and seniors who might be watching, you need to go in. It is time to order your cap and gown. So I know it will be here before we know it. And so your gown just doesn't magically arrive to you. You have to go in and actually go to the website and put in an order, so we make sure we have a gown there that is that will fit you and be personally selected just for you for the graduation ceremony on May 26th. And we have no FOIAs.
Board reports, before I get into mine.
We had a very good Illini Division dinner held at the high school. We were small but mighty, and the speaker was very good. He was from Richland School District, I believe, and he talked a lot about finances, and it was a great learning experience. I was glad we were able to show off our school. A lot of people were very impressed with the cafeteria and how we had spent our money, and the meal was very good. So I was glad we were able to do that to show off our district.
For the first time in person in like 2 years.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So I do have one thing I want to talk about in board reports, and that is coming up with a schedule to do our superintendent evaluation. I want to apologize to the public, to the board, for not getting our midterm check done. The board has traditionally not been very good about doing evaluations in its history on a regular schedule, and I want to try to rectify that going forward. So to that end, we need to talk about timing the process to do the overall yearly superintendent evaluation. I'd like to get this on a cadence so that it occurs in April every year, so that it's always done before the board turns over in May. So it'd be great. I mean, Ann, I know you kind of done this rubric for the past couple of years. If you'd take on, I guess, the beginning of trying to collect feedback from direct reports, et cetera, that we've done in the past.
Sure. And I mean, cut yourself a little slack. I mean, we may not have been great at doing it in the past, but we are slowly ooching it further and further back in the calendar, because when Peggy and I did it before the new board members were seated, it was back in like October of however many years ago. So now we've just, it's moving.
We're getting there. I get it.
We're getting there. I'd be happy to get that started. I would love it if there was one other board member volunteer who would like to help me and shadow me. Trying not to put the weight on new board members' shoulders, but it's not terribly time consuming. It's just making sure that you got your ducks in a row and you're good with Microsoft Word and or PDFs or whatever to organize the data. But it's something that would be great that we just have a rolling, at least 2 board members to work on, so that when new board members come in and go out again, somebody always knows the process. So, but also one other thing, I'm sorry I'm stealing your thunder here, Paul, but that one other thing about this superintendent evaluation process is that when Peggy and I overhauled the questionnaire that we did, however many years ago it was with the view of that we would constantly be improving it, and we want to keep learning from not just not the evaluation of the person, but the process itself to keep honing it and making it better and better. So again, that's another reason why it would be great to have a newer board member come on who has fresh ideas and fresh questions that can be added to the.
Well, I'm not a newer board member, but I definitely have a lot of HR experience.
You
so
do,
I definitely would.
If you want to do it,
That
but Tori,
evaluation is pretty.
you do so much that I didn't want to volunteer you, but I would love it if you'd want to help. That would be awesome. So
Is that
thank
all right
you.
with the rest of the board? Does anyone else wish to volunteer?
No, I think it's great. I just wanted to chime in that when Ann and Peggy had done this in the past, it was actually approved by our Illinois Association of School Boards. They were very impressed with the form that they, and how they had changed it. So we did have official approval, if you want to say, to move forward with this, so.
And we do, that's one of the things that we wanted to do, is to run it past our division directors, because the ISB has got all the tools already there, so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We wanted to make sure that we crossed all our Ts, dotted our Is, had attorneys look at it to make sure, we didn't miss anything out, just to keep it above board and
So how much time do you typically need, I guess, to get this done?
Well, if, we definitely want to get direct reports, responses back before the school year ends, obviously, and everybody's off doing their own thing, and that, so I would say probably about, from start to finish, 2 months. I mean, the less
wow.
time, the better, because we don't want to.
So it looks like we're gonna have to target a May evaluation this time around. We'll have to start earlier next year.
Yeah, and I mean, I know all the 7 of us are good for it. We're still here over the summer for most part, as this are. Yes, so it's just getting the direct reports and the administration, in
All right.
central office.
Well, I don't want to keep us here any later, so we'll let you two kind of get started on the process, and then we can target an evaluation actually happening in May this year.
That'd be awesome.
And then at that point in time, we can talk about how to have a set calendar for this, set a year in advance, so that we can have defined dates for these things.
Great.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tori.
I tried to get done by 10.
Honestly, I was delighted to have